In the heart of ancient Greece, a land steeped in myth and legend, a tale of vengeance, betrayal, and the complicity of the human soul was born. Welcome to my deep dive into the most powerful and maybe controversial play of ancient time, Euripides' Medea. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, Timeless Tales with Ophilia, and I am Ophilia Adler, your host. Today we're going to explore the tragedy of Medea. It's a play that has resonated through the century, continuing to provoke thought and emotion in those who read it. So let's take a little deep dive into it, shall we? Medea was written by Euripides, one of the greatest tragedians of classic Athens, around 431 BCE. This was a time of great cultural and political turmoil in Greece. The Peloponnesian War had just begun and the city-states were embroiled in conflict. Euripides, known for his critical and often controversial takes on traditional myth, used the stage to question societal norms and explore the dark side of human nature. But why was Medea even written in the first place? The play was based on a myth of Jason and the Argonauts, a well-known story at the time. Euripides took the character of Medea, a figure who had often been portrayed as a barbarian witch, and gave her a complex and deep human personality. By doing so, he challenged the audience's perception of gender roles, justice, and consequences of betrayal. Let me give you a little bit summary that is spoil-free about Medea. The play begins in the city of Corinth, where Medea, a powerful sorceress, lives with her husband Jason and their two children. Medea, originally a princess from Colchis, had helped Jason in a quest for the Golden Fleece, betraying her own family in the process. She left her homeland and committed acts of violence for Jason's sake, believing she would be his partner for life and forever. However, as the play opens, we learn that Jason has abandoned Medea to marry Glauce, the daughter of the king Creon of Corinth. This marriage offered Jason social and political advancement, but leaves Medea devastated. Her heartbreak quickly turns into intense anger as she grapples with the betrayal. Medea feels not only betrayed as a wife, but also fears the future of her children in a society that might now reject them. Creon, aware of Medea's potential for revenge, decides to banish her and her children from Corinth. However, Medea pleads for just one more day to prepare for exile, and Creon, despite his better judgment, grants her this request. Medea uses this time to formulate a plan to exact a terrible revenge on Jason, Glauce, and Creon. Jason, meanwhile, tries to justify his actions to Medea, claiming that his marriage to Glauce was meant to secure a better future for their children. He offers to support Medea financially in her exile, but Medea rejects his offer, accusing him of being a traitor and ingrate. As part of her plan, Medea meets Aigus, a king of Athens, who is visiting Corinth. She secures a promise from Aigus that she and her children will have a sanctuary in Athens after she leaves Corinth. With this promise, Medea sets her plan into motion, preparing to use her knowledge of magic and cunning to punish those who have wronged her. Throughout the play, Medea struggles with her emotions, particularly her love for her children and her overwhelming desire for revenge. This inner conflict is central in the drama, as it shows the audience the depth of her pain and the lengths she is willing to go to reclaim her own dignity. The tension builds up as Medea executes her plan, and the audience is left to wonder just how far she will go and at what cost before the play reaches its shocking conclusion. On the surface, Medea is a tale of revenge and taking justice for what her husband is doing to her. But beneath all of that is just a profound exploration of themes like the position of women in society, the nature of justice, and the consequences of hubris. Medea is a character that defies the traditional role expected of a woman in ancient Greece. She's not passive and she's not submissive. Instead, she's powerful, intelligent, and extremely frighteningly determined. Euripides uses Medea's plight to criticize the patriarchal society that marginalizes her. Despite her barbarian origins, Medea is shown as to be capable and resourceful as any Greek hero, perhaps even more so. Her actions, through extreme, are the response of betrayal and abandonment she suffers in a world where she has few rights or protections. Another key theme is the concept of justice. Medea's revenge is terrifying and brutal, raising questions about what justice truly means. Is she justified in her actions? Or has she become a monster in her quest for retribution? Euripides leaves this ambiguous, forcing the audience to grapple with their own definition of right and wrong. Since his debut, Medea has left a lasting impact on literature and theatre. It has been interpreted and reinterpreted countless of times, each generation finding new meanings and its timeless themes, and the character of Medea has become a symbol of both female empowerment, but the dangers of unchecked emotions. The play has inspired numerous adaptations in various forms: opera, film, the modern theatre. Each of these adaptations brings something new to the table and reflects on changing attributes and concerns of the society. Euripides' Medea remains one of the most powerful tragedies ever written. It explores the love, betrayal, and revenge, continues to resonate with audience today, reminding us that the complexity of human nature and the consequences of our actions. Whether you view Medea as a tragic victim or a ruthless villain, there's no denying the play's enduring relevance. One of my favorite Roman authors, Ovid, also wrote his segment of Medea. He wrote it in a tragical way, which unfortunately though has not survived the passage of time. Ancient sources suggested that his play was highly regarded and showcased Ovid's poetic talent in a dramatic genre. Though we do not have the text, Ovid's Medea was likely influenced by earlier versions of Medea, the myth of Medea, including Euripides' famous play, but would have been distinctly more Roman in its cultural context and possibly in its portrayal of the character. This is something that I find very sad because Ovid is one of my favorite Roman authors, and knowing that he wrote one of my favorite plays is tragic. We have lost a lot of good literature when it comes to passage of time, and I feel like this is one of them. One interesting fact to add to all this is that Euripides was one of the most celebrated playwrights of ancient Greece, and he did not only write Medea, but he wrote many other scripts and plays that are transcribed to this day, and we can enjoy them today as well. But this particular play, Medea, was one of the many contributions that he had to a dramatic competition held during the annual festival known as the city Dionysia, a major religious and cultural event in Athens dedicated to the god Dionysus, the deity of wine, fertility, and theatre. The city Dionysia was the most prestigious theatrical competition of its time, where playwrights would present their work, often trilogies and tragedies, followed by a satire play. in front of a large audience and a panel of judges. Euripides was a frequent participant in these competitions, and his plays were known for the intellectual depth, psychological complexity, and often unorthodox treatment of traditional myths. Medea was one such work, and it was particularly controversial due to its portrayal of a strong, vengeful female protagonist who defies social norms. Euripides took a mythological figure who had traditionally been portrayed as a barbarian and a witch, and gave her a sympathetic and complex character, which was unusual and provocative at that time. In the competition, Medea was part of a tetralogy of Euripides submitted, though it only won third prize. The outcome was somewhat typical for Euripides, whose innovative and sometimes challenging plays often struggled against more traditional works by his contemporaries. Despite not winning first place, Medea went on to become one of Euripides' most enduring and influential tragedies, continuing to be studied and performed for centuries after its debut. The play's reception at the time reflected a tension between traditional values and the new, more critical perspective that Euripides often introduced into his work. His Medea remains a powerful example of how ancient Greek theater could push the boundaries of storytelling and provoke deep questions about human nature and society. I myself read Medea the first time when I was in high school. I was forced due to school to read a Greek play, and this is what our teachers chose. I fell in love with the story. I felt it was very complex and very detailed. I didn't think I was going to like it because reading Greek plays can be difficult sometimes, and people say that if you don't have an experience, it can be hard to understand them or understand the themes that you're reading. I myself feel like this story is very well written and it's very easily to take in. You can understand the suffering from Medea. In the beginning of the story, when it begins, we will see Medea not on stage at all, which is something that was very powerful. I feel like in the story it was written. We can see her children and we can see the nanny of the children on stage, and they're trying to talk to Medea, who is backstage, and she's just in so much emotions, and she's so sad and so upset, and she's just crying and wailing and saying that her life she's abandoned. She helped Jason escape a fate which made her the enemy to her own country. So she does not have a country to go home back to. She does not have a family to go home back to because she already turned their back on her own family and her own blood. And now the only one she has left is Jason, and he's now also turning his back on her. He's trying to say that the reason he's leaving her is because of the children that they have together, that he wants to give them a better future, and to give them a better future, he needs to marry into the kingdom and into the royal family, and that will secure the children's place in Corinth. But Medea herself just see herself as this victim who is abandoned, and she doesn't understand how she or her sons will ever survive this. And it's a very impactful scene. I feel like you can hear her cry backstage, and she doesn't want to show her face, and the kids are asking how their mother are doing, and she's just there and sad. This is also when we get the first foreshadowing to the story that she might do something to the children, because she's asking what life they will have. Medea is such a complex and interesting character. You see her go through this sorrow, the abandonment, and then she's with her husband, and she's trying to when he's trying to justify everything, and he's like, with your blood, and you're this barbarian from this barbaric country, and our children has your barbaric blood. They need to have this royal blood or royal background on their side to be accepted into Greece society. And they're talking about her like this foreigner that has no right in the country, but she's so resourceful and such a good citizen. So what Jason talking about is just weird, and you can like relate to it so much with how you see foreigners in other countries today, and how they feel like when they leave maybe their home countries and they come to a new country where they don't speak the language, they don't feel, they don't have any family, they don't have anyone but maybe this one person. And what happens if that person leaves them? Their entire society and everything around them is just going to crash, right? And that is what Medea went through. When Jason leaves, she has nothing, and to hurt Jason the most, she is going to take her revenge in her own hands and take it out on his new beloved wife, or bride, and of course his children, because back in the day, the worst thing you could do, the most sad and tragic story that you could do, especially as a mother, was to murder and kill your own children. And I think that is what made Medea so shocking. Something I would recommend is knowing the myth about Medea and Jason before they come to the Corinth. So about the golden fleece and how she helped him betray her family because she loved him so much. Knowing that background, I feel like it's giving a lot more sense into why she feels so betrayed. Otherwise, I feel like you will have a different view of Medea as a character and a person, depending on what you think of her. If you know all the background stories and how she helped him, how she hurt her family, how she murdered her brothers just to help him because she loved him, to then be betrayed just for him to leave her for another woman, I feel like you will understand her pain and her hurt a lot more. But if you wouldn't have known that background and you just have this woman having come off all these emotions and doing this revenge, I feel like maybe she will be more villainized in a sense. And I feel like that is why she's so complex as a character, because she is a villain. She do commit crimes and she do a revenge that is said to be one of the worst things you can do. But she's also very human in a sense that wouldn't we all be met with despair and sadness if we were in her situation? Sure, she went up and beyond in her ways of doing the revenge, and her emotions took over and was leading her. But haven't we all felt and done something we're not proud of because our emotions are steering the wheel? I feel like we all can relate to that in some way. And I don't know, I do like Medea. It's such a sad story. It's such a sad story, yet complex. And it tells you so much, and you can learn so much from it. Thanks for joining me in this little analyzing story about Medea. I truly love talking about Medea in Greek plays, and they do interest me. And have you not read a Greek play before? I do recommend that you read something by Euripides. I feel like he's very easygoing, and Medea is by far one of my favorites that he has written. I'm going to do some more deep dives into other plays in the future, so maybe if this is not for you, maybe you can find something else in the near future. But I hope you enjoyed this little video. If you enjoyed this analysis, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And I will see you next time. Keep exploring the stories, keep reading, keep being interested in stories, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!